You're on your knees in the red dirt of northern Tanzania. The sun hasn't risen yet. A pregnant woman beside you scrapes the wall of a shallow pit with her bare hands. She pulls out a chunk of pale clay, brushes off the loose soil, and bites into it the way you'd bite into an apple. She chews slowly. She's done this every morning for months. And her mother did it before her. And her mother's mother before that. This isn't a strange habit. This isn't a disorder. This is one of the oldest health strategies on Earth. And modern science is only now catching up to what this woman already knows. Let's turn the page back, way back. Long before farms, long before writing, our ancestors were already eating dirt. Not by accident, on purpose. Grinding stones from that era still carry traces of clay minerals pressed into plant starch. These weren't mistakes. These were recipes. The practice has a name. Geophagy, the act of eating earth or clay with intent. And it shows up in dozens of cultures across 6 continents. From West Africa to the Andes, from rural Cambodia to the plains of Nepal. Pregnant women are the most common practitioners. In parts of Ghana and Tanzania, huge numbers of expectant mothers chew clay. Now, the obvious response is to call this pica, a disorder, a sign of poverty or lack of schooling. And for decades, that's exactly what Western medicine did. Doctors filed it under odd behavior and moved on. But that answer misses something crucial. When dozens of cultures with no contact between them land on the same practice over thousands of years, something deeper is at work. So what does the clay actually do once it hits the gut? Think of a sponge, not a kitchen sponge. A sponge riddled with tunnels so tiny you'd need a microscope to see them. Each tunnel is lined with a slight electric charge. When this sponge passes through your stomach, toxins in your food drift toward those charged walls. They stick, they get trapped, and they never reach your blood. That's how clay minerals work. Their layered structure creates a web of tiny traps. And those traps aren't random. They're selective. In a lab, one type of clay pulled the vast majority of a deadly mold toxin out of a test liquid, far more than charcoal managed in the same test. That mold toxin, found in stored grain across the tropics, causes liver damage and raises cancer risk. For communities that rely on corn and cassava, a daily dose of clay isn't ritual, it's defense. But toxin trapping is only the first trick clay performs inside you. Picture your body as a house with bare cupboards. Iron is low, calcium is scarce, zinc is nearly gone. Now picture a guest who walks in and starts stocking those shelves. That guest is a lump of clay. A single serving of certain clays can deliver most of the iron a pregnant woman needs in a day. That's not a trace amount. That's a meaningful dose, pulled straight from the earth. Other clays bring calcium, magnesium, even selenium. The exact mineral blend depends on where the clay was dug. Red clay from one region might be iron-rich. White clay from another might lean toward calcium. The earth itself varies. And the women who choose their clay source know this, even if they've never seen a lab report. Still, you might wonder, if clay is so useful, why isn't everyone eating it? Why did it vanish from Western culture? Part of the answer is branding. When European colonizers found geophagy in Africa and the Americas, they labeled it primitive, dangerous, a sign of mental illness. That label stuck so well that by the last century, most Western doctors treated clay eating as a symptom, not a strategy. The practice didn't disappear. It just went underground. Women in the American South still quietly buy bags of white clay at certain shops. They just don't talk about it to their doctors. But the clay doesn't care about labels. It keeps working. Here's where the story shifts from the gut wall to something even stranger. The surface of a clay particle isn't smooth. Under high zoom, it looks more like a landscape. Ridges, valleys, crevices. And those tiny features are perfect homes for bacteria. Not harmful bacteria, helpful ones. In one study, people who ate a small amount of clay each day for 2 weeks saw a surge in one key group of gut microbes, the kind found in yogurt and linked to better digestion. They more than doubled. At the same time, the acid level in their lower gut shifted toward a gentler range, creating a friendlier space for even more helpful species to move in. This is not what most people expect from dirt. Dirt is supposed to be the enemy of health. We sanitize, sterilize, and scrub. But here, a pinch of the right clay acts like a welcome mat for the very microbes your gut needs most. Now, there's a fair challenge to raise here. Not all clay is safe. Raw earth can carry parasites. It can hold lead, arsenic, and other heavy metals. Public health workers who warn against geophagy aren't wrong to worry. In some regions, clay sold at markets has tested positive for harmful levels of these poisons. This is a real risk, and ignoring it would be reckless. But here's what those warnings often miss. The communities that practice geophagy didn't ignore the risk. They built systems to manage it. In parts of Nigeria, clay is only harvested at dawn before foot traffic and animal waste can reach the soil. The clay is then washed 3 times in fresh water. After washing, it's roasted over fire. These steps aren't random. They mirror the logic of modern food safety. The wash strips away most parasite eggs. Roasting cuts down on bacteria and reduces how much of the clay's aluminum your body can absorb. In the Andes, communities mix their clay with herbal blends that further bind dangerous metals. These steps were never written in textbooks. They passed from midwife to daughter, from healer to apprentice, through song and routine and quiet insistence on doing things the right way. They are hands-on science tested over generations, encoded in culture instead of journals. But what happens when the lab finally catches up to the midwife? That's where this story takes its most surprising turn. Walk into any pharmacy and look at the shelf for stomach trouble. Chances are you'll find a product built on kaolin, a refined clay. It works by coating the gut and firming up loose stool. The label says was antidiarrheal, the active ingredient says our ancient practice, Dersho. The World Health Organization went further. They now endorse a specific clay mineral as a treatment for cholera, one of the deadliest gut infections on the planet. In trials, patients who took this clay saw their fluid loss drop sharply within hours. That backing didn't come from folklore. It came from clinical data. But the data only confirmed what communities in West Africa had practiced for centuries. Beyond the pharmacy aisle, the cutting edge of medicine is doing something truly wild with clay. Engineers have shrunk clay particles down to a scale far smaller than a human cell. At that size, they can be loaded with cancer drugs. The beauty of these tiny clay carriers is their feel for acid levels. Tumors tend to sit in a slightly more acidic zone than healthy tissue. So the drug-loaded clay drifts through the bloodstream, stays sealed under normal conditions, and only releases its cargo when it reaches the acidic zone around a tumor. In lab tests, this approach vastly outperformed the drug alone. The journey from a pregnant woman chewing clay at dawn to a cancer doctor loading nanoparticles in a sterile lab is shorter than you'd think. The principle is the same. Clay has a structure that can hold, carry, and release. Whether it's iron for a growing baby, a toxin pulled from tainted grain, or a cancer drug aimed at a tumor, that ability is built into the mineral itself. Now, there's a limit to this story, and it's worth stating plainly. Geophagy works best when the clay is right and the prep is careful. In a world of loose markets and polluted soils, eating random dirt is not a health plan. The women in Tanzania who choose their clay pits with care are practicing something closer to pharmacy than to recklessness. Remove that care, and the benefits can reverse. This is not a blanket endorsement of eating soil. It is a case for taking ancient knowledge seriously enough to study it, refine it, and maybe learn from it. What strikes me most is the gap between how we talk about this practice and what the evidence shows. We call it primitive. The data calls it effective. We call it superstition. The chemistry calls it adsorption, the process of trapping substances on a surface. We call it pica. The midwives call it breakfast. If this story made you rethink what counts as medicine, you'll want to hear what we found about another practice science dismissed for centuries. That one's coming next. Subscribe so you don't miss it. A woman kneels in red dirt before sunrise. She bites into a lump of pale clay. And somewhere in a lab halfway around the world, a scientist loads the same mineral into a syringe aimed at a tumor. Neither one knows the other exists. Both of them trust the earth.